Yes, hello. I was just driving around and just had a random thought. And as I'm now getting used to this YouTube thing, I figured why not just film it and put it up. There's a really important point that I want to make that chaos magic made really clearly in the 1990s and early 2000s. It hadn't been made before in magic and esotericism and has kind of been completely lost since. And it's a really, really important point to make, not just because it's awesome and fun, but also because it's important to distinguish ourselves from religious people. Um, Magic uses the language and techniques, symbol systems, and practices of religion, but it's not religion. And I think that a good way, a more modern way to look at it would be it's like a process of magic is a creative process. Like think of it as like a collage process from the detritus of religions. We can think about it as like cutting up, remixing, remastering, making your own version of religion or your connection to something greater, using all of this stuff as kind of like scrap to build your model of reality from, but not becoming a slave or an adherent of somebody else's system. One of the great chaos magicians of all time, William Blake, said man must create his own system or be enslaved by a system of somebody else, enslaved by the systems or other. Man, we would now say humans must create their own system or be enslaved by the system of others. And that's completely true. It's as true of rigid occult systems as it is of religions. And there's a lot of magical systems that demand religious adherence. That's not magic, that's religion. So chaos magic basically said, no, 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 no. Look, once you understand the core of the magical process, which is altered states, getting into altered states of consciousness, it's obviously a lot more complex than that. But once you understand kind of the meta levels of magic, chaos magic is even chaos is probably the wrong word. It should have been called meta magic. Phil Farber later used that phrase. I think it's better. It's a meta view of magic that looks at all the world's magical systems and says, what do they all have in common? So we can strip down past the surface layer, which is just set dressing. You go to a Hindu temple, you see Hindu gods. If you go to a Christian church, you see Jesus and Mary and angels. But in both of them, if you're doing a religious ritual, you're experiencing an altered state and an inner sense of connection with God. Mystics throughout history have actually proven that you can get to God from all these different paths. Ramakrishna is a classic example. He proved that you could get to God through Christianity, through Islam, through Hinduism, and eventually he just became a Kali devotee. But he showed that basically what he showed is that the symbol system on the top is largely culturally determined. And it's good that they're different because there's lots of different cultures in the world. But underneath the cultural gloss, there's core, almost like electrical engineering principles of how this stuff works. And once you get that, you don't need to be a slavish adherent of the symbol system. And you can take that understanding into any religion. You can go to temples, religions, check them out, have that experience, see what that's like it's like the role-playing games or, drugs, basically. But you understand why they're happening and you don't become a slave or an adherent to a truth claim. We're not interested in truth claims in magic. You want the truth? Go to science. We're just goofing off here, but goofing off in a way that brings us closer to who we want to be in life. Like artists, it's much better to think of magic as an artistic process. And the ultimate point that I want to make in that light is, and this has been totally lost. This, for me, was the most exciting idea of all of chaos magic, and it's what actually attracted me to the idea of magic, because I was an atheist. I was religious. Not religious. In a sense, I still am, right? Via negativa might be a better way to put it. But that idea was that once you understand the core of religion, you can make your own. You can create your own belief system, your own gods, your own meaning, your own mythology, yourself, and get it to work using the techniques of magic. Now, in the 90s and the 2000s, there was a very, very popular idea that you could use magic to contact pop culture deities. For some reason, that seemed really profound at the time. Apparently now this is really trendy on TikTok, and people think they're being possessed by Asterion from Baldur's Gate and all this insanity. It's really cringe to watch younger people doing it, but frankly, it was probably even more cringe when we were doing it. So that was kind of as far as that was part of the mainstream kind of, that was part of what we were, how people receive chaos magic. Kind of the most radical the public went with it was, hey, maybe we can summon fictional characters. That's not even that interesting to me. What's interesting to me is the idea of creating your own cosmology, your own religion. And by the way, religion. It doesn't have to be for anyone but you. Maybe it shouldn't be, but creating, approaching religion as a creative process, approaching religion as a creative, artistic, skeptical, rational, maybe even, hopefully even empirical and logical process. But the core idea there, approaching religion as an art project. Okay. That's fun. That sounds fun to me. That sounds like a really cool way to be a really eccentric and enjoyable person to be around. So I just wanted to make that point because this is a point that is critical, not just for people who are interested in this topic to understand, but it's a point that was lost. And it's a point that also, I think that when you explain magic that way to other people, they're like, okay, well, that makes sense. It's just like, I just take religion as a creative process. Now, you may notice, yes, that sounds very nice and wonderful on the surface, but think how blasphemous that statement actually is. Lots of love. See you later.